Hey everybody, we are covering Uncle Paul's top 10 interview tips for 2021, and I am sharing my screen. You should be able to see that at this point in time. I'm not going to cover, as I've mentioned in prior videos, the summary title slide. You can pause it here and read through it, or you can go back to the first video in the series, number 10 and number 9, that covers this a little bit more in detail. I'm just going to basically give you a summary from number 10 to number 5, and then we're going to jump into number 4 and number 3 here. Number 10, show up early, log in early. Don't do it last minute. I'm telling you, it's not a good thing, not a good look, right? You want to show up early, even if they're not ready for you. That shows that you're coming in prepared. And you don't want to show up an hour early either. That shows a little bit of desperation, something I didn't cover in the prior videos. But just make sure you kind of use these guidelines that I covered. Number 9, make sure your technology is working. If you're doing a virtual interview, which is highly likely that you are, not on the employer, to make sure your stuff is working right. Do your due diligence beforehand. Update your operating system. Update the software that you have to use for the interview. That's on you. Don't do it the morning of. Don't do it before. No one cares about your excuses as to why you didn't get it done. Be prepared. Number 8, be precise with your answers. Don't be too short. Don't be long-winded. Don't run off at the mouth. Give good, answers. Give them enough information. Check in with them. Have a dialogue. Make sure that you're answering the questions correctly. Gather your thoughts before you answer. If you don't understand the question, ask them to rephrase it, or you rephrase it in a way that you think that it's what they're asking for, and they'll correct you if not. So you don't want to go down and waste, if you have a half an hour meeting, waste 10 minutes on something that they're not even looking for. So make sure you understand the question. Number 6, don't throw shade. Don't throw shade and hate about your prior employer, or about prior, team members or prior bosses. No one wants to hear that. It gives big red flags if you're going to do that in the interview, in terms of what happens if something goes wrong. You're going to throw your team members or your boss, or, your hiring manager, or your boss's boss under the bus in front of, higher ups. Not a good look. So never, ever do that. Figure out a way to, answer it in a way that, here's the situation we faced. This is how we dealt with it. Here's how I suggested that we improve it. Go in ahead of time knowing that some questions might be asked of you in terms of how did you handle a difficult situation. Number 5, you be prepared. Have your list of questions that you want to ask about the team, why the position's open. I list all that. I'm not going to cover it again here. Again, you can pause this, or you can go, but I encourage you, if you didn't listen to the prior video, that you go back and you listen to that. And then we're down to number 4. We're covering 4 and 3 today. Number 4, groom yourself. Dudettes, take a shower, shave. I mean, I know I've got my COVID beard and I got my COVID afro going here, but listen, when I'm interviewing and I know that I might have the potential of having an candidate, I make sure that my stuff is groomed. After I get out of the shower, my my afro shrinks down quite a bit, and then I pat it down even more so that I'm not necessarily fighting the power during the interview. So anyway, make sure you groom yourself. Make sure there's nothing in your teeth. Make sure you smile. Move your video window up to the top of where your camera is. Log in ahead of time, the day before. Set it up. Make sure the lighting's right. If you don't have a light, which I don't, I'm going to turn on now, right? Turn it off because it's a little bit hot. So there you go. You can see the difference that it makes. Perfect timing in terms of what it looks like when you have a ring light turned on, and it's just a round light. You can get them pretty cheaply on Amazon. And you see the difference there. I hope you see the difference. I think that was perfect, actually, so that you can actually see what it looks like and the difference it can make. If it's darker like that and you don't smile, maybe people think that you're not very friendly, right? But just adding that extra light helps you in terms of how you're looking, how you're coming across. Listen, it's also better for you to dress in business formal, right? I don't typically necessarily wear a tie to a lot of my interviews anymore, and some people may frown upon that, but most places are business casual. So khakis, polo, khakis, dress shirt, and so what I'll do is I'll wear a suit jacket and a dress shirt, and I'll have an open collar, right? I don't necessarily wear a tie, but it depends on what position you're interviewing for. If you're interviewing for a VP level, you might want to wear that tie. Use your judgment on it. And it's okay, by the way, to ask what the dress environment is. But again, even if they say that it's casual, or if it's jeans Friday for them, you still wear a dress shirt minimum and a sports coat or a jacket or a sports suit. and be prepared, right? Also, make sure you check out your environment. If they tell you that that it's a phone call only, you might get that director that steps in because of the position you're interviewing for and says, "Hey, Paul, can you turn on the camera for me?" And you need to be able to say certainly, and you turn it on, right? And I've done that before where I've said, hey, would you like me to turn my camera on? And I've turned it on, and I can turn it off afterwards if it's causing too much lag in our conversation. I do that. They appreciate that a lot of times because it saves them that extra step. It might save you from even having a second interview where they want to bring you in to eyeball you to make sure that you're presentable. So again, use your judgment on it, but I strongly encourage you to dress for any situation, which means that you need to be groomed, ready to go. Plus, it just helps you feel better and confident about yourself, right? It doesn't matter how they dress, right? I mean, if they're dressing casually, doesn't matter. You can never unring that bell of first impressions, right? So make sure you're prepared and ready to go. Um, again, I think that I covered the clutter, right? And I'm going to give you an example here. Make sure that if you do turn your video on, that either you know how to have that background picture where it's blocking things out. I actually have an office that's actually a workstation as well for me for my personal projects that I work on. So I'm always using this background, and sometimes you'll see some things, but it's always worked well. I'm going to get to the point where I have a little bit of a green screen situation. I just have a small room for my office though, so it's a little bit tough for me right now. The second thing, in terms of when you go into an interview, I interviewed a young lady for a delivery lead position about a year and a half ago. Came in, had a suit pant on, which is fine. She wore red Chuck Taylors. And the young lady that was working for me at the time on the team that I had sitting in the interview with me, we were both discussing it for about a half an hour afterwards, saying, yeah, she gave some pretty good solid answers, but man, it gives us both pause whether we want to hire her. She's going to wear red Chuck Taylors to an interview. And the reason we did that is that if you don't have enough common sense not to wear red Chuck Taylors to an interview, it gave us both pause to be like, can we put you in front of directors and VPs? And the answer is kind of like, I don't know, but she gave solid enough, answers to her questions that we rolled the dice on her. She ended up working out, but there's a few issues that came up with her that, if I'd followed my gut, might have saved me a little bit of headache. I'm just letting you know. So we're going to move on to number 3. And again, we've all been on those conference calls, especially in the environment that we're operating in. And again, don't be that person. I'm going to do a top 10 series about the person you don't want to be at work. And this is one of those people. Never, ever, ever use your computer's internal microphone and speakers. It is the worst. People can never hear you. There's always a delay or lag, or there's that echo. It's the worst. Take your iPhone or your Samsung or your, headphones from your or your smartphone and use those. There's typically a headphone jack in there that allows you to plug it in right to your speakers. You don't have to go and spend a lot of money. And even if you do, you want to invest in yourself. If you want this job, invest in a pair of cheap USB headphone speakers. You can get those on Amazon, or you can even get them if you need to just start out until you start earning a paycheck again. Go up to Five Below or the dollar store. A lot of times they have those there, and it'll get you through the interview at least, right? But check them out beforehand before you use them. Never, ever, ever use it. No one wants to hear that, and it frustrates me. It frustrates me. I actually present some of my meetings when I'm doing kickoff meetings, and just cut that out, right? It's a no-no for you to actually do that in any of the meetings that we're running. So, again, don't do it. There'll be feedback, the latency, it's just not good. And then you have to dial back in, and it just kills the meeting as well. And you don't want to be the person that kills that meeting. And you especially don't want to do it for your interview when you have a short amount of time, right? You don't necessarily have, an abundant amount of time where you can sell yourself. But if you're sitting there messing with your speakers and your headphone, and then you have to dial in with your phone, have that ready and set up. You should, and if you know that you're going to have issues, and you can't, don't have, you can't utilize your headsets on your computer, then don't do it. Dial in. Use your phone. Use your phone. Typically, most meeting notices have a dial-in number that you can use as well. So again, this is a never ever, especially for your interviews. And if you're working on my team in the future, don't ever use those. Always dial in or use your headsets into your computer. So that's it. Next video, we're going to cover number 2, the number 2 tip that I have for you for 2021 interview tips. And do me a favor, pass this video along to somebody who you know is coming up on an interview if you find that it's useful. If you find that it's useful, give me a subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and click the alert button. And I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to say adios, and we'll talk to you on the next video.